I believe that just transition must address colonial harm. It must take down rampant, crazy capitalism that has no boundaries. I just wanted to take a minute, and my apologies for not producing these in other languages, but this is a quote from the Climate Justice Alliance. It says, "Just transition is a vision-led, unified, and place-based set of principles, processes, and practices that build economic and political power to shift from an extractive economy to a regenerative economy. This means approaching production and consumption cycles holistically and waste-free. This transition itself must be just and equitable, redressing past harms, creating new relationships of power for the future through reparations. It is the process of transition. If the process of transition is not just, the outcome never will be. Just transition describes both where we're going and how to get there." If you want to move to the next slide. You know, often we've seen this globally. You know, the UN will get a hold of these ideas. You know, they'll become something in the mainstream, right? Because we know that just transition comes out of the labor movement. But oftentimes, these conversations around just transition become placeholders for market-based solutions and for green capitalism, the idea of green jobs. But we don't actually solve the problem of rampant capitalism or destruction of the earth. I wanted to put this slide from the Our Power campaign that was put together by Movement Generation. I really love it because it talks about this extractive economy that everyone's talked about the impacts in their communities. You've heard from everyone. But where we need to go to regenerative economies. And even for Indigenous people, it's not even regenerative economies. It's actually about reinvigorating everyone in society a better relationship with the earth, right? And I think that's what the Rights of Nature is also trying to do, is remind people of their sacred relationships in life, right? And so for us, it's not just regenerative economies, it's actually embodying that ideal in the way that we build the fabric of our societies. And I really like this idea. If you look at the top, you might not be able to see it because it's tiny, but it says, "Stop the bad and build the new." I want to move on to the next slide. So this one, again, is another quote from Climate Justice Alliance. It's one of the many organizations that I've been kind of watching as I nerd out about just transition. But I think the one thing that they really talk about in this that's really interesting is around sovereignty and gentrification, all the things, again, that we're fighting, right? If you want to move to the next slide. I also wanted to mention the Indigenous Environmental Network. They've been doing this work for quite a while. They've come up with a set of principles. You can find them online. But I really, if you want to go to the next slide,